Good afternoon, Cubes of the Cash. Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy here, and just like most Saturdays, we have a Savage Saturday comic review. This time we're on episode 127, and today I'm bringing you a tale of Young Conan, and by Roy Thomas, and an artist I'm not familiar with, Sandor Florea. So this is my first viewing of his work, and it wasn't bad. It was good, not great. I did like it quite a bit, though. I thought it fit the story. We are going to, as I do with a lot of these, I'm going to read this whole story to you. I'm going to present the pages over there. A story I don't think most people have read, so I like to bring stories, as you guys know, to you that you may not have ever experienced before. But not only that, if you just want to turn me down and pause the pages and read it yourself, it'll be there for you. If you want to listen to me read it and narrate it, that'll be a thing too. So this one is called Old Garrod's Heart. And again, written by Roy Thomas, and it's adapted from a Robert E. Howard story called Old Garfield's Heart, which is a horror story. And Roy adapted it into a Conan tale, as he did with a bunch of other books and stuff, and other tales from like Gardner Fox, and just many pulp writers, and also other Robert E. Howard tales. So again, Sandor Florea is the artist. My first time experiencing his art. And I do have that Robert E. Howard horror story in this, the horror stories of Robert E. Howard. And I really loved the way Ballantine Books and Del Rey Publishing had these volumes. These are my favorite way to read Robert E. Howard. I just love their format. Really easily readable. They have beautiful art inside. And just a lot of great stuff. Like here's just a cool depiction of something in these books. So they do a great job. I don't think many places have done it better than them. But without further ado, Old Garrod's Heart. A Tale of Young Conan in Samaria. Freely adapted from the story Old Garfield's Heart by Robert E. Howard, creator of Conan. And we're going to go through this again. I will put stuff over here. And this is a backup feature story in the Savage Sword of Conan, issue 203 from 1992 in November. So our story starts out, Conan is looking on and he's taking advice. And it says, it is the raspy voice of gray-bearded Jongalt that stops Conan in his tracks as he nears the outskirts of the Snowhawk tribe's village. To the hut of old Garrod. He goes, and where be you going with such deliberate tread, young warrior? And Conan answers, to the hut of old Garrod. He's very ill, and our shaman will not chant over him because he is not of our tribe. Okay, into this, Jongalt says, would that my legs were up to the walk. Your respect for your elders does you credit. Many young ones, even some who have seen more than your 14 snows, cannot wait to see old men die, so they can take their place at the council fires. All right, and you know I'm going to do it. So there we go. Great first page. And again, Sandor Florea's art is really good. So enjoying it. And sometimes art on these backup stories is really hit or miss. But we turn the page and Conan and Jongalt are continuing their conversation. And Jongalt says, Garrod is a good man, even though he never accepted our invitation to dwell with our tribe. And Conan says, I know, Jongalt, I must be going. I want to be at his hut before dark, and already the sun sinks toward, and he's cut off by Jongalt. He goes, you think old Garrod is a great liar, do you not? And Conan says, well, he does tell some tales that seem as tall as Crom's Mountain. Some of the things in which he claims to have taken part must have happened long before he was born. And to this, Jongalt replies, yet I came here as a boy when our whole tribe did, and Garrod was already here, living in the same hut you go to now. Nor does he look an hour older now than the first day I ever beheld him. And then we're getting a flashback now to an old battle. It says, I remember the year when a band of raven picks crossed the border, looting and burning. I was among the defenders, as was your grandsire Coram, both warriors in our prime then. Old Garrod, though not of our tribe, fought in our forefront and slew their painted war chief. But as at dusky-skinned devil died, he hurled his lance, striking Garrod full in the heart. 'Twas an awful wound, and as I knelt over him, he lay like a dead man. Then an ancient-looking Pict came walking out of the brush and called to us. He said he was not of the same tribe as those we had fought, and was no warrior besides. Not that that would have stopped us from killing a Pict in those times or these. To this day, I do not know why someone did not spear him even as he spoke, but there was something in his voice. So, right there, give you a quick look at those 2 pages before we continue. All right, and our tale, recollection from the past continues. It says, so we listened, and he told us that he was an old friend of Garrod's and could save him. He asked us to carry him to a certain long-abandoned stone altar deep in the forest, and there he would minister to him. For reasons no man of the Snowhawk tribe could have put into words, we did as he bade. When he began to chant strange spells over Garrod, we left, uneasy. Though, if our shaman had been with us, he would have doubtless have insisted that we slay the Pict. All night, even far off in our dwellings, we heard a moaning that was not made by a dying man. An unseen owl hooted eerily from midnight till dawn. Just at sunrise, old Garrod came walking through our village on his way to his own hut. He was pale and haggard, but alive, and already the gash in his breast had begun to heal. Since that day, he has never mentioned his wound, or the strange Pict who came and went in such mysterious fashion. Nor has he aged a day, so far as any mortal man can tell. Do you believe my tale, Conan, if you'll not believe his? And you see Conan walking over, he goes, I will tell you how he fares when I return, Jongle. And Conan is approaching Jongle's hut, and it says, the youth, who in less than 15 years has seldom ventured far from his village, reaches the isolated huts at moonrise. And Conan cracks the door open. Garrod, he calls. And from inside here, come in, lad. And it's his friend Braxton. He goes, greetings, Brax. I'm glad to see another man of the tribe has come to see after him. How is he? And Brax says, and he's whispering, so the old man can't hear him. He goes, his body was crushed inside that fallen tree trunk. His body was crushed inside when that fallen tree struck him. He's been raving, saying wild things I dare not repeat. I cannot get him to lie down, but I doubt if he will live till daylight. But the old man can still hear them quite well. And he says, You are wrong, Brax. I will live, and stop whispering about me. Come here, boy. What are broken bones and twisted guts? Chaff blown by the wind. 'Tis the heart that matters. As long as the man's heart beats within his breast, he cannot die. All right, we'll show you those 2 pages. And our tale continues. And he catches Conan by the wrist, and he's really got Conan's attention. And he says, and my heart yet beats. Feel, boy. And he puts Conan on the wound where the spear had struck him. Yes, here, over the livid scar made years ago by a Pictish lance. By Crom, I never felt a heartbeat so strong. And to this, old Garrod replies, I cannot die. Not as long as that heart is within my breast. Even were a spear to pierce my brain, I would not be rightly dead. And yet, this heart is not mine. And Conan's like, no. I'm not Conan. Brax is, no, not. And Garrod says, it belongs to a ghost man. And Conan, always inquisitive, says, ghost man? That is the name of the shaman Pict who saved my life when I got this wound. Listen, and I shall tell you both what I have never revealed before to a living soul. And Brax says, talk of life and death and an offense to our gods is an offense to our gods. And old Garrod says, the gods of the Cimmerians had nothing to do with it. It was in the day of your grandfather's grandfather that, on an impulse, I saved the life of that old Pict. Well, perhaps he would have survived that Vanir man's attack, but I thought him in mortal danger all the same. Before we parted, he waved his hands about in the air, shook his skull staff, and told me he would come when I needed him most. I did not believe any of it, of course. He goes, yet, that long ago day, I was slain. Ghost man came from nowhere. All night he chanted over me, calling my ghost back from the spirit land. I was dead as any man can be, but he brought me back. And Conan says, but how? And Garrett says, when I woke, he told me he took out what was left of my heart and put the heart of a god into my bosom instead. It's kept me alive and strong all these years. But that heart still belongs to the god of the old pick borrowed it from. And when I am done with it, he will come for it. And you see a look of fear come over Garrett's face. He goes, boy, if I do seem to die somehow, promise me you will cut into my bosom and take out the heart you find there. Else, as long as it beats in my body, my spirit will be tied to that body, even though my head be crushed underfoot like an egg. I would be a living thing in a rotting body. Swear to me, boy. And Conan says, I swear. But now I must return to the village. Conan can tell Brax believe no more of that tale than he does, but it is often best to humor the old and the mad. Old Garrett does not die that night, nor the next, nor the next. But young Conan long has reason to remember the morning after that. For that is the day he has to fight with Kirhak. Even in Samaria, people will take a good deal from a bully rather than spill blood. And you see this guy, Kirhak, approaching Conan. You, come fetch water to my hut. And Conan says, I'm a warrior, not a fetch pot. And Kirhak says, and I say you will do what I tell you to. Still slow to move, are you? Then by Ymir, I'll move you. And he grabs Conan from behind and he is pulling a blade on him. Because no one has taken the trouble to kill him, Kirhak believes the whole countryside lives in fear of him. And still more narration. But when he tries to carve a scarlet rune upon Conan's face, he learns that he has been dwelling in a paradise of fools. And Conan tosses him a great distance, and the guy lands in a bucket of water. And Kirhak comes up raging, as has been the wont of bullies since time was not. You'll pay for this, whelp. And back to narration goes, but he does not attack Conan anew, perhaps because he has seen how easily the youth hurled him a considerable distance. Toward twilight, Brax seeks him out. I'm going to visit old Garrod. Will you come with me? And Conan replies, if you want. Nightfall on the path. Narration sets up the evening for us. And Conan says, why did you ask me along this night? Is Garrod? And Brax interrupts, says, fully recovered from injuries that would have killed an ox. But I heard Kirhak boasting and whispers to his friends that he means to kill you on sight. I'm really wanting to get you out of the village tonight. And then Conan's just mad. He's furious at this. He says, crown curse you, Brax. Now men will think I left because I was afraid of that dog. I am going back. And Brax says, all in the Snowhawk tribe know you do not fear Kirhak, Conan. No sense in turning back now. We are here. And Conan and Brax enter Garrod's hut. Conan calls out Garrod. And Garrod says, come in, boy. You too, Brax. And Conan says, my name is Conan. How do you feel, old man? And Garrod laughs at him. He's like, ha, 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 ha. You're right. I am far more an old man than you are a boy. And Brax says, that tale you babbled that night, what do you think the pick put into your chest? And Garrod says, after all, I fought alongside your grandsire. And then it says, somehow, something from that long past and far off, he said, though it being from a god, he could doubtless do without it for a time. And you remember your vow to me, young Conan. And Conan says, I do, but if your story was true, you may well live to see me grow old and die. Hold, I heard something outside. And Garrod says, surely nothing but a fox. All the same, Conan rises and moves toward the doorway framed in light. And the next moment, look out! And a spear comes chucking through the doorway that Conan just cracked open. With lightning speed, young Conan hurls himself down, and a hard-hurled spear whistles past him to strike one for whom it was not meant. And you see the spear strike old Garrod right in the side of the head. A little brutal panel. It says, even as he leaps for the door, Conan sees the fleeing assailant. Kirhak, he yells out. And Conan rushes out with spear in hand. You meant this spear for me, Jackal, but dare not fight me man to man. Well, by Crom, if you won't meet me face to face, I will have to settle for your back. And Conan hurls the spear like a champion quarterback man. That thing sails through the air, right through the back of Kirhak and right through his heart and out through his chest. And Conan says, I would have liked it better had he turned and fought. And Brax says, but what a spear toss. You'll cover yourself in glory one day with that arm. And we'll take a quick look. So a little brutal panel on that first page with the spear going into the side of Garrett's head. And then you got Conan and Brax returning to the hut. Right now we must bury Garrod, Conan says, entering, and I vowed to cut out his heart. Hey, promises to the dead are best kept, Brax says, and no one was ever more surely dead than poor old Garrod. Well then, I'd better. By Maka in the main, Conan cries out. And Brax says, what is it? And Conan says, his heart. It still beats, as strongly as the night he bade me feel it throbbing. And Brax says, what? But he is dead. His body already begins to stiffen. To which Conan replies, his flesh grows cold as well, but beneath it, his heart still beats like my blacksmith father's hammer, a living thing inside a dead thing. Then what are you going to do, Conan? asks Brax. And Conan takes out a knife and says, I'm going to keep my word. And then we go to descriptive text. It says, outside, only the unmoving stars. Inside, the light of a single candle. Outside, an owl begins to hoot in weird and mournful fashion. Inside, no sound but that of a knife cutting through flesh and bone. Then, thrusting a red-stained hand into the aperture he has made, Conan draws out a pulsing object which catches the flickering light. Suddenly, recoiling, he drops it. It moved, he said. It does not fall with a soft, meaty thud, as a piece of flesh should fall, but with a hard thump. And as old Garrett's blood flows from it, as if repelled by it, Conan and Brax can see the thing more clearly. In size and shape, it resembles a human heart, but it is slick and smooth, even faceted. And its crimson surface reflects the candlelight like a jewel more lambent than any ruby. Brax, it feels brittle, unyielding, like steel or stone, Conan says as he lifts it. Oh, let me show you those now. And you just like getting the full horror of this living heart after poor Garrett is dead. All right, and our tale continues on the next page. It says, Conan lifts it above his head and he's holding it up like a prize. And he says, it's far heavier than it should be, yet it still throbs mightily even now. And though Conan cannot put it into words, the thing sends vibrations of energy up his arm until his own heart seems to swell and nearly burst in response. He senses this is some object of cosmic power beyond his comprehension, concentrated into the likeness of a human heart. And he wants it. If only this heart could thunder in my own bosom in place of my own paltry one. And Brax is just horrified. He says, do not even say such a thing. Throw it away, Conan. Do you hear me? Why do you just stand there? Hurl it as far from you as you can before it destroys you somehow. And before Conan or Brax can do anything, a hand reaches in and snatches the heart and says, no. And you can see it is Ghost Man. And he says, I must have it. And the noise, and then we go to descriptive text again. It says, the noise of his coming has been no greater than the whispering of a night wind through the tall grasses. Without speaking, both Conan and Brax know on the instant that this is the Ghost Man, the Pictish shaman who gave that unholy heart to Garrett so many years ago. And the Ghost Man looks at both of them and says, now stand you both back and let me depart. And as he leaves, Conan and Brax are talking, and Brax says, do we really see what we... And Conan says, we must follow. Where did he go? And Brax says, we were only a second behind him. And then Brax points up in the air and says, Conan, look, up there. And you see this great demon up there. It says, by the bones of Crom, Conan yells out. And Brax says, it's flying off, and that was Garrett's heart glowing upon its breast as surely as unborn. No, Brax, not Garrett's heart. The God who owned the heart sent his messenger to bring it back to him at last. And thus concludes our tale. Now, this, I've read it a few times now. And I got to say, I got to give the artist credit. I wasn't used to his style. But the more I read this, the more and more I think his style fits this story. And the more I like his art in reference to the story. This adaptation from Roy Thomas, I'm going to give this a good, strong A for an adaptation. The writing's good. The pace is great. You get to the story rather quickly. And even though it's a lengthy little short. As far as it fitting into Sumerian Conan tales, maybe, maybe not, but it's still a fun tale. The artwork, we're going to give that a B+. It's great. I thought some of the faces needed a little help here and there, but overall, really solid art, especially for a backup story. I thought he knocked it out of the park. So we'll give the art a B+. It told the tale well, and it fit what was going on with the narrative. So no big real complaints about it. Just a few things here and there that I thought could have been a little bit better, but still a really solid effort art-wise. Overall, I'll give this whole short story an A. Really fun. I enjoyed it just as much reading it again to you guys as I did reading it before. And I'm glad that I got a chance to finally read this short. And it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I am a big fan of Robert E. Howard's horror stories. Now, Old Garfield's Heart is a story I haven't got to yet. But I'm going to read that today so I can compare it to this and just have a fun time with it. But guys, let me know what you think in the comments below of this tale. Did you enjoy this adapted story that was a horror story from Robert E. Howard into a tale of young Conan? Do you think it fit the mythos? Did you enjoy the journey? And let me know in the comments below. Thank you once again for tuning in for another Savage Saturday comic review, and keep it casual.